For decades, the idea of making world-class wine in places like central Brazil seemed, well, impossible. The climate was just all wrong. But what if I told you a group of innovators figured out how to literally hack their own seasons? Yeah, they did, and they gave birth to this surprising, award-winning new category of wines.
Okay, let's just dive right in with a question that probably sounds a little crazy. Can you really produce high-quality, fine wine in a region that's famous for its tropical, rainy summers? Well, the answer, as it turns out, is a resounding yes, but not at all in the way you'd expect.
So, to really appreciate just how clever this whole thing is, we first have to understand the huge problem that stumped Brazilian winemakers for years. It all boils down to a really frustrating mismatch of seasons. And this slide lays it out perfectly. Look, the traditional harvest time for grapes is summer, right? But in this part of Brazil, summer is the rainy season. All that rain and humidity, it's a total disaster. You get rot, disease, and grapes that just never get ripe enough. But look at the winter. The winter was absolutely perfect.
And that was the maddening part, The region's winter had exactly what winemakers dream about: a dry season, plenty of sun to build up those sugars, and cool nights to keep the acidity fresh. That temperature swing, that high thermal amplitude, it's the golden ticket for creating complex, balanced wines. All the right conditions were there, just sitting on the table, completely unused.
So what do you do when you have a perfect climate, but it's at the totally wrong time of year? Well, you don't give up. You come up with a brilliant piece of agricultural engineering that changes the entire game.
Researchers at a place called EPMIG, Brazil's Agricultural Research Agency, they developed this technique called dupla poda, which just means double pruning. It's basically a way of tricking the grapevine. So first, in September, they do one pruning to get the vine growing. But here's the key. They snip off the early fruit. Then, they come back in January and do a second major pruning. This forces the vine to hit the reset button and start a brand new production cycle. And what's the whole point of this two-step dance? It completely flips the vine's natural calendar on its head. By rebooting the growth cycle in January, the grapes start ripening in the autumn and are ready for harvest right in the middle of those perfect, dry winter months, like July and August. They didn't change the climate, they hacked the plant to fit the climate. It's genius.
Now, this simple but totally revolutionary technique didn't just solve a problem. No, it created something entirely new. A whole new category of Brazilian wine, with its own unique identity and, of course, a name to match.
They became known as vinhos de inverno, or winter wines. These are wines literally defined by when they're picked. They're made from grapes that could finally, for the first time, get perfectly ripe and healthy, packed with concentrated flavor, deep color, and beautiful, balanced acidity.
I love this quote because it just reveals the incredible ambition they had. For the pioneers doing this, guys like José Procopio Stella, this wasn't just about making some decent local wine. It was about proving they could hang with the best in the world. This was a statement. And hey, this wasn't just them talking a big game. The quality of these new winter wines got recognized almost immediately, which was a huge validation after years of research and taking big risks. I mean, get this. In 2020, a Syrah made by the very same research institute that developed the technique won a gold medal at the Brazil Wine Challenge. They found that grapes like Syrah and Sauvignon Blanc, which really struggled before, were now absolutely thriving and producing wines with incredible depth. The success of double pruning didn't just transform the vineyards that were already there. It unlocked entirely new territories for winemaking, including the high-altitude plains around Brazil's capital city, Brasília, which nobody thought was possible.
All of a sudden, this biome called the Cerrado, which was totally overlooked for growing wine, became this hotbed of potential. Its dry winter and high altitude were perfect for the double pruning system. And the best part? It's sitting right next to a massive built-in market of over 7 million potential customers.
And this potential isn't just a guess. Climate studies have actually shown that during that winter growing season, the conditions around Brasília are remarkably similar to established famous wine regions like Murcia in Spain. A whole new terroir was basically just discovered.
Okay, but let's be real. Pioneering a brand new wine region from scratch is never easy. It creates this really complex picture of massive opportunity, but also some serious challenges.
This kind of strategic analysis really lays it all out for us. The strengths are obvious. You've got this amazing technology and the perfect terroir. But the weaknesses are real too, like finding enough skilled winemakers and the high cost to get started. The biggest opportunity is definitely wine tourism, but that's threatened by high taxes and some really stiff competition from cheaper imports. And this right here gets to the heart of the economic puzzle. On one hand, you have this huge opportunity in what they call enotourism, tapping into a big city population that's hungry for new things to do. But on the other hand, you're battling these high taxes that make it really tough to compete on price with wines from, say, Argentina and Chile.
But even with all those hurdles, this winter wine movement is doing so much more than just producing good wine. It is fundamentally reshaping the map and the very identity of Brazilian winemaking.
And this isn't some small niche project anymore. It's contributing to a massive national industry. Just to give you some perspective, back in 2019, the entire Brazilian wine sector, including tourism, was valued at over 26 billion reais. That's well over $5 billion US dollars. This is big business.
So at the end of the day, what started as a clever research experiment has just blossomed into a whole new identity for an entire region's wine production. It's a fantastic story of how human ingenuity can work with nature to create something totally new and unexpected.
And this whole story leaves us with a really fascinating question for the future, doesn't it? As technology lets us manipulate growing cycles and get around climate limitations, what does that mean for our traditional ideas of terroir? It kind of suggests that the future of wine might be just as much about innovation as it is about location.